Hi there, it's Sarah from Ruffles and Rain Boots, and today we're going to make a standing ghost gnome for Halloween. Look at those amazing sneakers. If you'd like to make him, boop, just stick around. As always, please like this video so I know you're here crafting. It helps us out so much. Now, speaking of these shoes, I'm going to put a link to the video on how to do them. They're super great for standing gnomes, but first,
With a friendly gnome reminder to subscribe. How? Just click that red subscribe button below and then the bell for turning on all notifications. Now let's get back to Sarah and the crafts.
okay, so we're going to start here with our materials. I'm using fleece for everything. I have my pattern already cut out, and my pipe cleaners we're using for bendy arms. I'm using a large bead from my gnome nose and 2 for my hands. I'm using a maybe 1.5-inch strip of felt here, or I'm sorry, of faux fur, and I'm using this styrofoam cone. Now, I'm using a 7-inch cone, so because I have like a whole package of them, but you can adjust everything for a different size cone if you'd like. I'm also going to use pins, like straight pins, and I'm going to cut out the pieces for the eyes, which are stiff felt. Now, this little big chunk of fabric here is 2 pieces. One is like a little circle for the bottom, and the second is the pattern piece with the waves at the bottom for the ghost outfit. So the first part, I'm just going to stick the socks in and glue them down so that those can set over to the side. Next up, I'm going to make our arms. Whoops! I'm going to add hot glue to almost the edge. See, I'm going to leave about 1 inch there at the bottom, and then I'm going to place the pipe cleaner in and fold this all over. So that's our arm. And now just to add the beads at the end, those make our hands. So I do it in 2 parts. I squish one in all the way to the front, and then I add a little bit of hot glue and squish the 2 ends together like so. All right, so we're going to make 2 of those, and look and see, they are bendy. Yay. Now, you don't have to do that. I just thought it was cute because he's going to be holding a bag. All right, so now I showed this in the Pirate Gnome video, but what we're going to do is a little further back than half, we're going to poke our dowels up into the styrofoam cone, and we're going to adjust them until everything lays flat and even because we want our gnome to be even. And then I'm just going to mark where they are on the dowels. And this was just to help me go how far down again, so I didn't push it too far, because I wanted to see his little legs. I put glue on top of the dowels and inside the holes of the gnome, and then I placed it back down, and I do a little bit of adjustment here. I want to make sure that it's even. I want to make sure both feet are on the ground, and I also pick it up and drop it, and that just helps me know that it's solid. I put a little dollop of hot glue onto the bottom side as well, just to secure it. Now, we're going to take our pattern piece for our ghost, and we're going to fold down the very top of the fabric on the cone side, on the edge, and pin it directly into the cone. Now, on the seam, we're going to pin the fabric only. We'll end up taking this off of the gnome in just a second. So we unpin that very top while holding it together, and then we just pin the fabric. Okay, so we still want it to be able to slide on top of our cone. All right, now to make the nose hole, I already made it here for my, just wanted to make sure my concept was sound. What I did was I put this on, and then I rolled up the bottom edge, and I put a razor right where I wanted the gnome to be. So then I'll show you. I just put this up the skirt, so to speak. Roll it right on up, and then wherever I liked where it looked, I just cut that fabric a little bit so the nose can be there. Now, it's okay if you don't get the entire nose to come out. We're going to adjust it later, but once you do have a little bit of the slit in there, roll it up a little bit, and then right below where your nose is, you're going to have your beard. Now, you only want to glue down the very top tip of the beard right now, and that's because we're going to be pulling it through the fabric. And then you just put your gnome nose on as well. Okay, so I'm just going to take a second here, make sure the very top sides are glued down, because we are going to tug on this a little bit. So although you want the bottom open and free, you don't want that top to be shifting. All right, see? All done. Hello, little Nomi. Okay, so now we're going to slip this back on, and you're going to tug the faux fur out of the hole. And so you can see here it's a little tight on mine. Don't worry, we're going to fix that in just a second. All right, so here we go. So when you're putting it on, make sure that it pulls down to cover the bottom of the gnome body. But again, you can see how the nose is barely poking out. We'll get to that in a second. So first we're going to add arms if you'd like to use arms. I do. I want him to hold that thing. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to identify where I'm going to cut the fabric to have those arms slide up in there. And I'm just using a pin to hold my place. So then I'm going to remove this from the cone. And you can see, here we go. Be a little gentle. I mean, mine was on there really well, but you know, don't yank it. Just kind of slide it off. Okay, so once you have it, much easier than I have it, apparently, what we're going to do is we're going to open and just grab a pair of scissors, turn this on its side, and just below the pin, make a tiny slit, okay? We want it actually a little smaller than the width of our arms. We're going to put the we're going to put the ghost outfit back on the gnome. And then we're going to thread the arms through that little hole. And so you can see, you just push it right through. The pipe cleaner definitely helps. And then you can pull the arm down and then place it where you want it. We'll do the other one, get that in and on, stand him up. And you can see, make sure your arms are even. And you can either pin them in place or not, whichever way you want to do it. So here is where I am actually cutting just the tiniest little slit. It's not even another 1/8 of an inch. It was just a tiny little bit so I can have that nose pop up exactly where I want it. Okay, so I'm going to take it off one last time. You actually don't have to take it off. I could have just glued it on there. I don't know what I was thinking. So I'm just going to glue down the very top part of the arms. That's it. You could have done that without taking it off, I know. And now I'm going to just add a bead of hot glue all the way up that back seam. So we're going to start at the bottom. We're going to do this top part because there's multiple pieces here. So we're going to just fold it open. You don't want to glue that first piece down, right? That has to sit on the top of our gnome. So we're just gluing the 2 folds. All right. So give that a hot second to rest and then do this middle part here with hot glue seam and you're done. I'm using fleece so it doesn't show anything. Hello, little gnome outfit. Okay. Now he's dancing. And now we're going to put it back on and get this guy ready for the show. All right. So again, we're going to do gentle pulls and pull this little beard out. Give it a brush. No smexy brushing music because it's so tiny. All right. So once you have it in place, we're going to make sure that it looks exactly where you want because nothing is, you know, solid and glued down until this part right here. I'm just going to pull back a tiny bit of fabric, scrunch it down on the nose and hot glue it. I'm also going to glue on those little eyeballs I made out of stiff felt. Super easy. Get them kind of evenish. All right, now you don't have to do this part, but I chose to make a teeny tiny trick-or-treat bag with just using stiff felt in black and orange. So I cut out a rectangle of 2 rectangles of black stiff felt and then added a couple of little extras on the pumpkin and then a handle, and I squished it all in between there. Place it on my gnome and you can be done, but if you want to cover the bottom, which I totally do, all I did was cut a circle about the size of the bottom and then slits for his dowel legs, and then I glued it on. You can see here, we're going to definitely glue on that very top part underneath our beard to make sure it doesn't ride up. Get him all dolled up. And here he goes walking on his trick-or-treat. What do you think about this ghost gnome? Let me know in the comments. And I really do appreciate you being here. Please like and subscribe to Ruffles and Rain Boots for more crafty fun.
Hi friends, it's Sarah from rufflesandrainboots.com, and today we're making a candy corn gnome with an alcohol inked beard. This guy's a big time cutie for the holiday, and if you would like to make him, just boop, stick around. As always, please like this video so I know you're here crafting with me. Now today, as I mentioned, we're making this vibrantly colored cutie. He's 16 inches tall using a pattern you probably already have, and he also comes with this free printable double-sided bag. So our first thing is to make the beard, and I would urge you to protect your surface with something. This is an old piece of foam core board. I'm going to use white Mongolian fur with a 3-inch long pile, and I'm going to tape off 1/3 of the beard so it stays white. Then I'm going to color the top third, it's flipped upward, with yellow alcohol ink undiluted, and then I'm going to whip up some orange and do that same thing for the middle portion. So I did set this aside to dry overnight and then brushed it out with a dog brush. Because I still had this alcohol ink in front of me, I rough cut white fleece that I'm using for the hat. I'm using the same exact colors to make a yellow and orange as well. And then to make it a little less patchy, I just folded it in on itself and kind of rubbed it together. I whipped up the orange as well and did that in the middle section. So it did dry a lot lighter than the beard, just FYI. Depending on what you're using the alcohol ink on, but I love the way the alcohol ink colored the beard. All right, so I did final cut that hat pattern and then also did the body and the base. I made arms later, so I didn't use the arms from the pattern, but you can. You can sew those or glue those. So after I sewed up the body using the pattern instructions, I added the base and then sewed the hat and then flipped everything out. And I will use a chopstick or something to help flip out the tips. And I will rub the bottom seam in between my fingers. To assemble the gnome, we're going to use poly beads, which are non-odor, non-moisture absorbing, and use at least a cup and a half to really get that weight down. And then we're going to stuff the rest of it full of polyfill. You can use polyfill from a craft store like I'm doing, or insides of pillows you get at big box stores or the Dollar Tree, whatever you like. If you want a posable hat, and who doesn't, we're going to cut a piece of floral wire and roll the ends on either side, top and bottom. Now our floral wire is the entire length of our gnome, and we're going to press it into place. Now you can either sew or glue up the hole, but just make sure you stuff that hole as well, because this is the base to our entire gnome and hat. I choose to sew this up, and I'm going to make sure I catch that wire inside the channel. If you're gluing, I do recommend gluing it into the folded over part of your body, and then close the body up with glue. Do rub it in between your hands to distribute the polyfill and make everything even. You're going to slip on the hat just roughly to get an idea of where you want to put your beard and your nose. And I'm just going to add a little bit of hot glue right to that fabric backing at the top only, just to see if I like where it's placed. When I do, I glue it all the way down. Next up, I'm going to slip the hat on all the way, making sure the 2 points of the hat and body meet. To put on the nose, I'm using a 1-inch round wood round, and I'm going to split the fur to its fabric backing and put a generous portion of hot glue there. I'm going to also use a little bit of a scrunch down on front of the top of the nose by putting hot glue there as well. The rest of our gnome hat is not attached yet. For the bag, you can cut this out with your Cricut, or you can cut this out by hand. It's just on cardstock. Try not to use copy paper, as it's a little light and won't hold the shape as well. But the first step is just to fold all of the tabs straight up. You can use a ruler or just follow the line. Next up is to make the 2 faces of the bag. So there's a jack-o'-lantern on one side and trick or treat on the other. This little piece is going to go up to another little piece that we're going to glue the whole thing together. And I'm going to use hot glue, but you can also use paper glue or even the little glue strips you can get at the Dollar Tree. So finalizing all of our little folds here. Look at that trick or treat. It's just so cute. The last 2 folds are actually going to be the creases on the side of our bag. Those don't go all the way down to the bottom. You're just going to stop right before the white part begins and the orange ends. All right, so to show you how this is going to be assembled, maybe you'll have better luck, but I find that it's easier to glue the tabs down and then glue the side tabs down and then line up the bottom. But basically you're going to have 1 tab on top, 1 tab on bottom. All right, so here I'm just going to use hot glue. Again, paper glue is probably best, but hey, my hot glue gun was on. So I'm just going to line that up right here and pull out any hot glue that accidentally seeped out, because it's me and there's hot glue everywhere. All right, so you can see here, flip up 2 of the tabs and 1 of them in the middle. There you go. And then you're just going to glue down those tabs. Easy peasy, right? This is real time. This is not sped up, so you can see this doesn't take very long. As for the handle, I'm going to use a strip of black craft felt, but you can use jute, twine, those little rubber necklace things you get for kids at the Dollar Tree. I don't remember, cording. Okay, anyway, I just cut 2 triangles for the arms because I didn't need them very long. I'm going to, along the long edge, just hot glue hem those together. I'm going to want bendable arms. Again, who doesn't? I'm just going to take a piece of floral wire floral wire, bend the tips down, and then thread it up on the seam portion of our hand. So I'm going to turn that over right there, glue down the wire on both sides, and then add the wood round for his hand. You can use pom-poms, you can make mittens, anything you'd like. All right, so I'm going to tuck that up under the hat, bend the arm, see how I like it, and repeat it for the second arm. Again, gluing the wire down and hot gluing the hand. And at this point, guess what? All you have to do is glue down your arms. So we're going to glue the arm to the body and then the hat to the arm. Also, I show you all my mistakes. Here's a mistake. I didn't line up the hat before I glued it on the nose, so there you go. We're going to do the other side, and then we're going to finish up this cutie by assembling the bag. To get the right height, whatever that is for you, just hang it on his arm and then glue that strap in place. You can cut off the excess or not. But after you glue this second strap right here, look. And you can fill this too. Oh, we should fill it with candy. Anyway, what do you think of this guy? Y'all, I get so distracted by candy. Not candy corns. I love the way they look, but don't like the way they taste. Let me know in the comments below. What do you think of this candy corn gnome? And hey, do you like candy corn? Or do you like the way we colored this beard with alcohol ink? As always, you can get that pattern down below. And most importantly, thank you so much for being here. Please like and subscribe for more crafty fun.
Hi there friends, it's Sarah from Ruffles and Rain Boots, and today we're making a 10-minute Bat Gnome with everything from the Dollar Tree. If you'd like to make him, boop, stick around. As always, please like this video so I know you're here crafting with me. Now, everything here is from the dollar store. Taking that tag off of the headband I got, super cute, the witch's hat, this adorable fuzzy pillow, even the dress socks. We're also going to need a hot glue gun and scissors, but first,
With a friendly gnome reminder to subscribe. How? Just click that red subscribe button below and then the bell for turning on all notifications. Now let's get back to Sarah and the crafts.
okay, so we are going to start with a lid, like a jar lid. This is a pickle lid. I'm just going to put it in the bottom of this dress sock, and it's just going to help give the base of our bat a little bit of weight and stability. So I'm going to use some polyfill beads, and I'm just going to stick those in there. I'm also going to cut open this dollar store pillow so that I can grab a whole bunch of stuffing. Now, ideally, you're going to want to break this up, roll the polyfill in your hands into smaller pieces. But with this guy, most of him's covered up, so it doesn't matter. What we're going to do is we're just going to roll that in between our hands. We're going to tamp it down on the table. Anything we can do to really make sure it's white and stuffed. All right, so all we're going to do is we're going to tie off the top of this sock gnome, and then we're going to cut it off. Now, if I were doing this again, I would say you need to wrap the other part of that sock around the base because you can see the white polyfill. But again, most of them's covered. All right, after we add a little hot glue to that, I am going to use this pillow as a beard. So I've just eyeball measured, and I'm going to cut out a square. This is not faux fur, so you don't have to worry about just cutting the backing. Plus, it's really silky, so you're going to lose a little bit of fluff. But what we're going to do is we're going to hem the sides or the edges and the top, and then we're going to squinch together the bottom. And we're just going to do that with some hot glue. And you can see I'm pulling off pieces to make sure that nothing comes off later. I think that's always a good idea. So you can see I'm just roll hemming here, and then we're going to squinch the bottom and hem that top down. Now, once we have that, we're going to fluff this. I would not brush it, just FYI. We're going to add a little hot glue to the back of it and stick it right on the front of our little gnome. For our hat, I'm going to cut off the witch's hat, and I eyeballed this, so it's going to be way too big, as you can see. So what we're going to do is, I still wanted a tall hat, so what I do is I pinched it in the back, and then we're going to cut off, just adding a 1/2 inch to the pinch. And then we're going to hem each open side. So all we're going to do is add a little hot glue and fold it over. And the other side. And now what you're going to do is just going to pinch close this hat together. So we're going to add hot glue on the end, so the bottom, and then we're going to take those two hem sides and just squish them together like a sandwich. Yep, that's it. I wish the dollar store, I don't know this is dollar store. Do they sell sandwiches? Weird thoughts. Anyway, so you can see we have our little hat here. It's very tall and cute. And now we're just going to hem the bottom. We're going to hot glue hem the bottom. So we're going to go all the way around, just tipping up this edge all the way around. And again, I don't know if it'll fray. I just don't want it to. Okay, so now we're done with our little hat for our guy. Squish that down onto it. And now I'm going to cut off the bat wings and ears from this, so you can do all of that at once. We're just going to trim up the edges, make sure it's flush. We're going to put it right there on the body of the gnome, so we just add a bit of hot glue. Now I will say, if you're going to do this, be sure to pull it up towards you a little bit so that hot glue, if any seeps out, it's in the back. And we're just going to repeat with the other side. You're going to have to hold it there a second, which is why this whole thing takes 10 minutes and not 5 minutes. Now we're going to hack off the little bat ears from the headband and do the same thing. Again, we want to make sure if there's any glue, it's really flat. You're not adding a huge bead of glue. You're just making a flat application of hot glue. And stick it on. Okay, I'm adding a clay nose because it's what I had, but the dollar store has wood beads, buttons, anything you'd like. We're going to stick that on, and we're going to scrunch down the front of that hat right on top of that nose. And then we're going to mess with his beard and you're done. That's it. What do you think of this quick gnome? Everything's at the Dollar Tree. Thanks for being here with me. Please, please like this video and subscribe to Ruffles and Rain Boots for more crafty fun. Hi there, friends. It's Sarah from Ruffles and Rain Boots, and I'm here with a pirate gnome to make, complete with a hook, a peg leg, and the most regal, probably stolen jacket. This is our pirate gnome. If you'd like to make him, stick around, but first give him a boop on his little nose. As always, please like this video so I know you're here crafting with me. So I know you guys love it when I do this, so here's a gnome. There's two pirates here. There's an easy one, which is on the right, and then our little more detailed one with the pirate boot, the peg leg, the tricorn hat. You can make the other style hat if you'd like. But if you want to make the one on the right, it's super easy. Just cover your entire gnome in felt, add a sash, and maybe a patch, and then skip to the part where we're making the boot and the peg leg. But for this guy, this is the one I'm going to make on the left. I love him. It was a little bit of work, but I'm going to use this minky fabric. It's a little bit stretchy for the jacket, but that doesn't really matter. I just wanted something very regal. I also used a piece of like darker red soft felt and black felt. That is soft. We're going to make a sash and cover the gnome hat. And for the stiff felt, this is the money here for the boot and for the tricorn hat. If you're making the other style pirate hat, you can do that as well. Okay, so this is optional. I chose to make a little buckle and what do you call them, buttons for the jacket out of this glitter foam. I got it at Michael's. It's in the kids section, but it's easy to hole punch, which made perfect little buttons. You can use anything you want. I'm going to show you an option here in a second. And then for the hands, or hand, and those you can use whatever style, wood bead, clay bead, button, anything you want. This is the star of the show. These 7-inch cones, I'm starting a full series with these guys. Get them on Amazon. They're super inexpensive. And it doesn't matter if they're damaged, but the bottom needs to have no holes in it because we are going to use this as our base to build on, and we want that to be pretty secure because we're going to be using dowels. Now, if you've never made like boots or shoes for gnomes, don't worry. I'm going to walk you through it. The pattern will have everything you need, but we aren't going to use the style where you use the rollers to sort of add the bulk. We're going to weight it down. So you need rocks or something a little heavier for that boot. For the buttons, I just used a hole punch, but here's another idea for the buttons, if I can hold them. So you see my button, but if you have little star brads or round brads from scrapbooking stuff or paper crafting, you can use those for buttons as well. And we are going to need pins, straight pins. And before we get started,
I'm here with a friendly gnome reminder to subscribe. How? Just click that red subscribe button below and then the bell for turning on all notifications. Now let's get back to Sarah and the crafts.
did you like it? I made it again. Okay, so we're going to start with our 7-inch cone styrofoam cone, and mine is damaged, so I'm writing B for back because there's a big hole in it. Okay, so the first part is you're going to take and wrap your clothing to size. Now this part is 100% optional depending on how tall you want your gnome's hat to be, but mine is 3. I think it's 3 by 10. 10.5 inches. So all we're going to do is we're going to wrap that around back. The one thing to note is you want it to sort of hang down a little bit. So wherever you're putting the top of your body, just make sure you have enough foam that it covers sort of that bottom edge. We are going to cover the bottom edge by taking our cone and tracing a circle out on the bottom and just cutting that out. We're not going to attach it till the end, so just set it aside. But what we want is to mark where our hat begins, because we want the hat to cover the bottom or the top of that clothing. And so all you're going to do is roll your cone, cut it to size, and then trim off the bottom at the part that your shirt meets. And then I just cut a small beard for a rectangle. You do any kind of beard you want. This is Mongolian fur. It's a 3-inch pile and I loves it. If you're new to my channel, I use it a lot because it's just so elegant looking. And you can rough it up to make it look really rough and tumbly looking. All right, so to get started with our assembly, all we're gonna do is we're gonna hot glue one side down here, making sure we have our placement correct. You see how it's kind of hanging over the bottom? And then we're just gonna do the other side as well. Now for your gnome beard, you can do anything you want. You can braid it, you can style it, you can split it, you can add a mustache, just glue it on at just the top of where your shirt part is. And then I created a buckle by just creating a tiny little rectangle and using a razor to cut out the center of the rectangle for the buckle. And then I created a sash. And because this was my very last piece of black, flexible felt, my sash only goes part way around, but it's okay because his jacket covers it up. We're going to glue that down, and then we're going to add the buckle right in the middle. Isn't this easy? It's easy so far. Okay, so now we're just going to glue on our nose. Always make sure that you put the front of the hat part first because it's going to have that cute little scrunch right down. So put a little bit of hot glue and then press lightly in the center. Just put it there. And then you're just going to roll the back, hot glue it, and if you need to clean up any of your glue, which I do all the time, cut it with a razor or scissors. Don't try and move it around with your finger. Just wait till it's dry and then you can cut it. Okay, so for this part, we are going to now create the tricorn hat. And you don't need a pattern. All you need is a circle-ish shape, okay? So I used the bottom of our little guy. I added about 1 inch all the way around, and I used chalk to create my circle. Is it a perfect circle? No, it's not. If you would like a perfect circle, please add a compass or a Tupperware lid to your crafting supplies. But we are going to create this, and then we're going to, this is why I use chalk, so I can just rub it off. But now we're going to cut out the center. I know it seems kind of weird, but this is the stiff felt, okay? So we're going to fold it. It won't crease it, I promise. And then we're just going to create a hole right in the center. So just clip that right off. Easy peasy lemon squeezy. And now I'm just cutting 4 points around that circle so that I can easily cut, because again, this is stiff felt, so it doesn't move as easy as the craft felt. But what you're going to do is just cut that circle all the way around. You don't want to go smaller than 1 inch brim because it just won't look right. I messed it up, so just take it from me. I think this one is about 1.25 inches. So what we're going to do is, you can see, it looks kind of like a witch's hat right now, right? This, by the way, is the exact same, yeah, I had to take a drink of water in my gnome's cup. Okay, so this is how we're going to make it. We're just going to pull up either side so the front comes to a point. So make sure you have it where you want it, and you need to get out 2 things. You need to get your hot glue gun back out, but you also need to get out those straight pins. So what we're going to do is we're going to raise up the front on the left, and then we're going to glue it and then pin it in front and back of the glue. Don't try and go through the glue. Then we're going to repeat that on the other side. Okay, so just make sure that you like the way the front is pulled down. You can even pull it down farther than this. Okay, so we repeated that on the other side. And now we're getting to that beautiful regal jacket. So I have a pattern piece for you. You don't have to worry about creating your own. It's not a rectangle, so if you do want to create your own, see that? It's not a rectangle, but all I do is use a little bit of chalk and then cut on the inside of the shading. Okay, so after you unpin it, now we are going to hem all of the inside edges, because this does fray, this sort of minky, oh, it's so soft fabric. But you're going to create the tiniest little seams just by using hot glue. Now, I get asked a lot, do I use fabric hot glue? I do for some projects. I don't for others. I would recommend, if you're working with a nice fabric, to use fabric hot glue. And you can get that on the link below in my gnome supplies. And so here we are. We're just going all the way around. And now all 4 edges are hemmed. Now we can get yourself a stand, because this part is 100% your call. Stick your little fella on the stand or a cup or something, because this is personal preference. I wanted my jacket to hang down below his body. And so what I did is I put the shorter side at the top, and the back goes all the way up under that hat. And then I sort of pointed down the front. And then I put pins in just to hold it there, making sure it's even. So now you can see I have my arm pieces cut out and my collar piece cut out. And we're just going to leave this here while we build the rest of it. So this is the collar piece out of stiff felt. And what it does is it wraps all the way around, gives it a little bit of a finished look, but it also helps hide the arms so that you don't have to like really make a whole full-on sewing pattern with armholes and everything. Okay, so these are going to go, like I said, up under there. So we're going to make sure that the direction of our fabric is correct, because I messed up one, and we're just going to hem one of the short edges. Okay, that's it. Don't worry about anything else yet, and just fold it over for both edges. So this is the part that's going to be near the hands, right? So we're going to, so this one is for the hands. So what I was showing you there is, please don't go all the way to the bottom. So what you're going to do is, this is the one with the little round bead, and the other one's going to be the hook. So for the hook, all I did is I took a 12 gauge wire. I got it at the dollar store, so not very expensive. And I wrapped it around a pen. I'm so technical. And then I just cut it with scissors, because it's really not that bad. And then I just placed it in, and then we're gonna hot glue that down. But first, you know how there's, I don't know what it's called, but there's this little cup thing at the end of a hook in those pirate movies? I just cut a circle, stuck it onto my piece of wire, and sort of rounded it around that wire. And that way it sort of looks like it's finished, instead of just a wire poking out of a sleeve. And then I just glued down that part, the little circle part, before I glued down, I put the glue on the wire and on that seam. And then you just press it down, and that one will be done. I know, I'm taking a breather. This is like the most talking I've ever done in a video. Okay, so all we're going to do is just finalize this here, and that one is good. And then with the other one where we had the open end on the hemmed side, we're just going to take our little wooden bead and stick it right in. So then you see how we left that part open. Now, because it's pressed in there, now we can close it up, and we just take a little glue and just press the 2 edges together. Biggity bam. Okay, once you have that done, and you can choose to put a wire in the hand with the bead, but I did not. But if you do, just put it in before you do this part, which is lining up the top of the arm right at the top of the jacket and gluing it on. Again, this is going to be hidden, so we're just going to, you know, not going to be seamstresses today with this, okay? Okay, so now I just had to hold him steady, and I found out where the bottom of that collar is, because it does point down. You see how I kind of drew it that way? We're going to make sure we put our buttons, whatever you're using, below that, okay? So I have 3 buttons on each side. Find your happy place there. But because I was burning myself, I chose to stick a pin in the little foam dots and put them on that way. I just left the pins there until the glue dried, and then I pulled them away. So I did the top, the bottom, and then the center ones. Isn't he cute so far? You guys, I love him. I do. I really do. I play with him a lot. Okay, so this next part, and we're almost done with the entire body, everyone. We're just going to glue on the collar, and all you're going to do, make sure you don't go too close to the edge because you don't want any hot glue coming up. But I glued down one side, glued down the back edge, and then glued down the other. And here
is our little fellow so far. Isn't he cute? He's cute. Okay, now we're going to set him aside because now we're going to make our shoes. For this, I just used one popsicle or craft stick, not popsicle stick. It's the wider one. I cut it in half and created a long oval. That is included in the pattern if you'd like to get it. This is the stiff felt, and what we did, it's in the pattern as well, is I just rolled it around and glued it on one of the shorter edges. And this is going to be filled later, but it's going to need to set, so that's why I'm doing it first. So you're just gonna roll it around and overlap the edges, and don't burn yourself. I should be using those hot glue thingies, but I'm not, because again, I'm too lazy to get up and get them. I'm a horrible crafter. Okay, so and then this is really important. You got to make sure this sets, okay? And if you don't want to hold it like I'm doing, just clip it. Okay, you can use like little sewing clips, but just make sure you just set it off to the side. This is the toe piece of the boot. Make sure you cut the 2 little slits that are indicated in the pattern, because what it is going to do is it's going to wrap around the front bit here. It will not have any rocks or weight in it, but just to let you know, it will, this kind of style will make a big difference if you don't cut the slits. Okay, so now that we've let that sit for just a hot minute, we're gonna start assembling our boot. Now you can see all the pieces here. I've got the boot shaft, the boot cuff, the toe piece, and that little skinny one, which is going to be finishing everything off. So what we're going to do is just add a little hot glue to one of the edges, and then we're going to place it and form it, sort of shape it to that boot shape around the heel. Next up, we're going to attach our little front boot piece. I speak so much better when I have breaks. Sorry, everybody. Okay, so what we're doing is we're gluing down just the edge so that it can be secure. And you can tell I'm not going past the bottom of the 2 stacked popsicles. Okay, so just do it on one side, hold it there. You use a little bit of glue, do the toe piece, and then fix the last edge there on the other side. And if you don't get it perfectly lined up, don't worry. That's what that little piece is for. And if you mess up like me, I will show you my mess ups. You guys know I will. I also will recommend a black marker. Just FYI. It helps a lot. Okay, so now you can see with the glue, with the toe piece cut, everything works. Here is the top of the boot shaft. I wish I had black leather. If you do have black leather, this would be so perfect wrapped in black leather. But all we're doing is we're just adding the boot shaft to the top. And again, I messed up. There's glue there. I'll have to wait till it dries and I'll cut it off. And then now I'm just adding the tiny little buckle. I made a second buckle for the boot, and I just placed it right on that part that I had cut so you don't see the little slits in the felt. Okay, to make it all look shiny, happy, pretty, I'm just adding a tiny little border. Again, all of this is included in the pattern. Don't worry about sizing, but it's probably 1/8 of an inch if you're not using my pattern. Maybe it's like 1/8 of an inch. And so just make sure that you're lining up the 2 pieces in the back. Okay, that's all. It's okay. See that one side? I didn't take care in putting that boot shaft down. And so I'm going to show you how I fix it. Okay, so you don't need that anymore. Let's move this out of the way so I don't burn myself. And now I'm going to show you when you hold it, it looks good. But you see that white over there? That's not really white. Look at it. It's wood showing through. So I'm just going to take a black marker and I'm going to call it, oops, sorry. All right, now we get to the assembly part. And this, well, sort of, we get to the assembly part. And this is really fun. But what we're going to do is we're going to make, either you can use a wood dowel or you can do what I'm going to do is color it. We're going to use the boot and we're going to weigh it down with teeny tiny pebbles. I will tell you from experience, poly pellets will not work. They're not heavy enough. Okay, so just grab some pellets. I get them at the Target dollar spot or the dollar store. You can use aquarium things like fish tank rocks. But what we're going to do is we're going to hold the 2 dowels there. So you can see I put one dowel in the boot, glued it down, added the rocks, and then the other one is just blank. And I'm going to use that to make my 2 holes
So because I don't want to use my boot. So you can see here the boot, and just make sure you get it lined up so when he's standing up straight, it is straight. And now you can see without glue or anything, this peg leg and the boot are our stability. So if you want to make it look more like wood, just grab a pencil and mark where this is actually even so that we can start our peg leg there. And we just yank out everything because we're not assembling it yet. But you can get a dark brown and a tan piece of polymer clay. And if you have something better that works, like wood contact paper or whatever, find your happy place. I just have a lot of polymer clay that I have to use. So all I did was mix the two together in sort of a marbly look. So I didn't blend them all the way together. And then I started at that place that we had marked, making sure I don't go above it. And so I'm going to have a razor so that I can make sure I'm cutting it to be flat, because I want this to be stable. And if I don't cut it flat, it won't be stable. So what I did is I added more clay to the top near the body, and then I just smoothed the clay all the way down the peg leg, but I did not cover the very, very bottom because I didn't want to mess with that stability. And this is what it looks like before it's baked. So then you'll go bake it, let it cool, and then I prefer to always seal the clay. So I'm using a clay sealant from Sculpey. I use Sculpey clay. I use the Sculpey clay sealant. It dries in like 30 seconds, so no big deal there. Guess what? Guess what? Now we're going to put everything together. So we need our peg leg, our boot, and that little piece of fabric, felt that we cut. We're going to poke holes right where it's going to line up. So you just put that under, figure out where the holes are, and then line it up and play dance. You know, because you're doing a jig. And then what we're going to do is we're going to seal all those rocks in by putting glue inside, and we're going to be putting glue on the very top. Oh, those little webbies. And then we're going to be affixing it to the bottom of this gnome, so the felt round. And then I'm going to just do the same exact thing with the little peg leg. Make sure you don't use too much glue, otherwise you'll have to clean it up. Yes, speaking from experience. And then you're set to actually start assembling this. Okay, so I'll tell you, don't put glue on it yet, because you got to make sure that you get it perfectly even before you do, just FYI. So again, we left a little bit of an edge there, right? So now we're just going to pull back with our stuff in place, and we're going to pull back all the way around the edge. Do the front first, make sure it cups down, and then we're just going to get as close to those poles, as those dowels, I mean, as you can get, and then all the way back around. And you'll see that I had left a little space open in the jacket there. I'm just going to close that as well, and then I'm just going to make sure I'm pulling everything down all the way around. See, I left that hole open. I don't know why I did that. I don't know. But anyway, you're going to be putting this all together and sealing everything up with glue. Isn't he cute? Oh my goodness, you're almost done. You're almost done. Now all you have to do is pick up all the lint that felt gets. And if you don't want to attach the jacket permanently, you totally can. I got these from the dollar store. They're little stickum felt, no, what do you call it? Velcro. And I'm just going to put it on the inside. I have a fear of commitment on this guy. He took a lot to design to make him easy without sewing. So I just wanted to make sure that if I wanted to change my mind, that I could take off this jacket. So all I did was I used these little Velcro dots, opened up the coat, put it on the right here. You can see there's the hook and the fuzzy side. I put the hook side on the jacket and the fuzzy side on the body. And so now you can see I'm just putting him there. You see? And you can choose to hot glue it down. If you want to hot glue it down, that's totally fine too. Again, I have a fear of commitment with regards to this. And look, there he is. You can split the beard. You can make the shorter beard. You can add a mustache, whatever you'd like. What do you think of this pirate? Will you make him? Let me know in the comment section below. Thank you so much for being here with me. The pattern is available. And as always, please like this video and subscribe to Ruffles and Rainboots for more crafty fun. Hi there friends, it's Sarah from Ruffles and Rainboots, and today we're making a standing mummy gnome. He's got these outstretched arms, a super scraggly beard, cute toes, and if you'd like to make him, boop, stick around.
As always, please give this video a like so I know you're here. I would just let you know you can build this gnome anyway, but these 7-inch styrofoam cones make standing gnomes super easy. I'm going to use an off-white fleece, and you're going to need about a third of a yard, I think. We're just going to basically be cutting 11 inches in a quarter circle. All right, I'm using 3-inch gauze here. I only ended up using 2 of those small packages. I'm using embroidery thread to match my fleece, and then a needle. And then we're going to use whatever faux fur you like. And for an outstretched arm that's posable, I'm using 12 gauge wire. You'll need a nose and 2 hands. You'll also need some kind of marker so we can distress some gauze. And oh my goodness, look at all these gnome feet. I tried so many different ways, but this is the easiest. So I used Dollar Tree hair curlers, dowels, and a wooden base. Speaking of the wooden base, I'm going to go ahead and paint this wood ornament black. Now I wanted it black, and I'm painting the sides as well. If you wanted a different color, go ahead. Now first,
With a friendly gnome reminder to subscribe. How? Just click that red subscribe button below and then the bell for turning on all notifications. Now let's get back to Sarah and the crafts.
okay, so we are going to start building our gnome body. So you can see here, I have a quarter of a circle. If you did the ghost gnome, this looks very familiar. We're using 11 inches on a quarter circle of fleece. All right, so what we're going to do is put a straight line down the edge. Now, you're not going to need all of this unless you want a really chunky mummy gnome, but we're going to leave a little edge at the top and then roll it, securing it a couple of times with hot glue. And then we're just going to lop off the end and add a little bit of hot glue to that last bit. Now you won't have to worry about the top because we're going to squish it down. It does not going to be a very pointy hat. Okay, so next up we're going to leave about a 1/2 inch to 3/4 of an inch on the bottom. Do not glue it down. We don't need to. It's wasteful. Now we're going to use the pattern to make the mummy arms, leaving about 1/4 of an inch or 1/2 inch at the end. And you only want to glue one side. So don't put glue all in the middle because we're going to put our gauged wire down there. Or 12 gauge wire down there. So now we're going to do it again. So let's speed this up. Whoop, whoop, whoop. And just fold it over. Doo-doo-doo. Okay, so we're going to have outstretched mummy arms. So first, we don't know where to put them yet, right? Because we're just guessing. So let's finish up the arms to the point where we can start putting things on our gnome. And all I'm doing is taking those wooden beads and securing the very bottom with a little hot glue. And like I said, before we place the arms, we're actually going to cut a small triangle out of this faux fur. If you need to learn how, I'll put a video below and above. And we're just going to, wherever you'd like the beard, just tack that on with a little glue and then add the nose just at the top of it. Okay? So at this point, it looks a lot like our ghost gnome, right? Except we're building everything on top of the gnome. All right, so now for our wire, I'm going to use a 12 gauge, and now I'm going to need to put my arms on to see how long I want them, and I snip off what I don't want, and where I need to poke a little hole for the wire. So I'm going to place the wire all the way to the end of the bead, snip off about 1.5 inches, actually it's more like 2 inches of wire, and then just bend it in, because that's how it's going to go into the body of our gnome. Yay. And then we're going to add a little bit of glue, not a little, you can use a lot, doesn't matter, so that we can secure it in there. And don't worry if you get glue on it. We're going to cover it up with gauze. So we're going to then use our scissors to poke a hole in the fleece and then go ahead and poke that all the way through once, remove it, add glue, and poke it back in. And now one arm is done. Hello. Hello, little Nomi. Okay, we're going to do it for the same steps for everything else, so I'm going to speed it up. Little dot, little poke, poke it through, and glue it down. Okay, here's what we have so far, and now feet, feet, feet. Use the pattern to make these feet. And again, feet. We need 4 of these. So what we're going to do is we're just going to lift up the front. Do not glue the back. We're just going to glue like where the toes are. So you can see almost halfway down. We add a thin line of glue all the way around and do that for the second foot as well. We're going to let that sit for a hot second while we cut 15 inches and split it. Zoop. I always use my mouth. I'm not supposed to. I learned in finishing school you're not supposed to put that thread in your mouth. But listen, I don't care. All we're going to do now is put a teeny tiny amount of polyfill in the very tippy toes. Don't overstuff it. You don't need to. And we're going to start in from the bottom, however big you want your front toe to be. We're going to go over
the top and right back in where we went originally. And then we pull it taut right over the top and look, it's a toe. All right, now you have an optional, you can move that by the way, and you have an optional left loop if you want to do a toe indentation over the left side. I did. And then we're going back into that exact same place from the bottom. And now you pull it. You don't have to pull it too tight, but watch what happens. Zoop! Now you have a big toe. All right, so now we're going to go to the towards the smaller toe, right over the top. So we're going in from the top, pushing it through the bottom. And now we're going to come over the top, in from the bottom. So we're creating that second toe. See it? He's so cute. And then you can move it around and pull taut. Again, I wanted 3 toes. You can make 5, 7, whatever you want. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go around the outer edge like we did with the big toe, in and pull it taut. And then all I'm going to do is go in through an existing loop and knot it off. Okay, cut it off. And we did the second toe or second foot already. Or I did the second foot already. You're going to do it now. And then anything that doesn't line up perfectly, just snip off with a pair of small scissors. Okay, now for the distressing, this is like, you could do this 100 different ways. I was in a hurry, so I used 4 feet of gauze and added some marker in gray. Now we're going to make the dowel legs. Mine are 4 1/4 inches, and all I'm doing, yep, those are scissors. It's super easy to cut them. I cut about 2 inches of the curlers and squished them on. That's it. You don't have to do this part. Now this part, unlike some of our other styrofoam cone gnomes, we're going to place these towards the front. Here you can see about 1 1/4 inch in or so. And why we did that is because we want the back of our gnome to be able to hang over because he's got a bit of a booty. And we're pushing those in, getting them even. And now we're just going to position our feet on the base. They are not going to get glued down right now. But all I wanted to do is A, make sure I covered that wood circle. And B, make sure I wasn't tugging on the legs. So I wanted to position the gnome on top, then add the feet. And then I just hold those in place. And I'm just going to glue down the front only. See this? Only the, oh, you can't see it. I'm sorry. How about this side? Only the front of the foot, okay? And that's going to matter in a second. But we're going to use a couple of the scraps that we cut off for a little bit of legs. We want to cover up those pink curlers. If you can find white ones, more power to you. We're going to add a little glue into where our dowel holes are and just secure those and do the other leg. There you go. And make sure they're even. Again, we want to make sure our gnome is standing. And now we're going to glue the scraps to the legs. Now, again, you could do this 100 different ways. You could use those little baby socks as well, but I just had a whole bunch of scraps and I wanted to use them. So you don't have to go all the way down because our feet on the thing is going to carry it. So we're going to put down his little skirt. Again, we didn't glue it down. And then we're going to put glue right up under those curlers. Now, they are going to help really give a base. You just lift up the guy and put it down before the first one dries. Now, in the back, you're going to add glue to the back of the leg and flip up the little foot part that was still on the ground. You see what I mean? There you go. See it back there? We just lifted that up and glued it. Now you're going to glue the back part of the foot down. Wow. Now you will want to hold this so it's stable, but look, now he's ready. Well, almost, because now I have to go and cover up all the little pink spots that I missed. Like this and like this. Okay, so now what we're going to do is get our guy ready for gauze. Now this is just the white gauze, not the distressed gauze. So you're going to need quite a bit of this one. And hot glue is hot, so protect your fingers. Add a little glue, zoop, and put it down. Those things are really handy, by the way. And now, when you have to turn, flip your gauze, right? So kind of twist your gauze. There you go, at the turns, and then it will kind of overlay, which is really cool, and then it will lay flat. That's also nice. Over the nose, you're going to want to add a little bit of glue and go over a couple of times in a couple of different ways. But make sure you get that right there. And then you don't have to do this, but I thought it was cute to have some of the gauze going through the beard. So I just split it with the end of the scissors and did it that way. Now, when you've gotten all the way around except your arms, go ahead and snip off or fray the edges on a couple of different places around. And while you're securing all of the gauze, push the bottom that's hanging over under it. And then once you've got that on, now it's time to add our distress gauze over the top. And for the arms, just cut it in half and then use a little hot glue to secure all of those on. stand him up and look, you're done with an adorable mummy gnome. Boop. What do you think? Let me know in the comments. Thanks for being here, and please like and subscribe to Ruffles and Rain Boots. Hi there friends, it's Sarah with Ruffles and Rain Boots, and today we are making this spooky, ooey gooey zombie gnome. If you'd like to make him, boop, stick around. As always, please like this video so I know you're here crafting with me. Now for this guy, I didn't end up using the cone or these little glasses. I did use the dollar store foam curlers, felt, beards, polymer clay. I worked on this guy so much as a viewer request, so I wanted to use what you guys may already have. I used a cozy sewing gnome pattern and made it no sew. And I added this little hat that would just char up the edges here with cuts and pulls to the felt. And to close the cozy gnome body, all I did was, instead of sewing, I adapted it to leave the bottom 2 inches open, slit every inch or so, and add it to the base with hot glue. So we're just going to, each of these little tabs goes onto the base, and then once it's dry, you're going to leave the last 2 seam flaps open, and then once it's dry, we're going to turn it inside out just like you would do with a sewing pattern and squish down those edges. We're going to stuff it, and then we're going to close it after we insert a bit of floral wire because I wanted the top to bend. So after you insert your floral wire, just tuck it up in there, add the rest of your polyfill. And you don't need to weight this down because this is our body. And then all we're going to do is just push those seams in, and we're going to close them up. So we just push them in, close it up. So I'm putting pants on mine, so I didn't make it look very good at the bottom, but if you'd like to take your time, please do so. I knew he was going to get pants. Speaking of pants, if you have the swanky jacket pattern, you now have pants. We're going to send an update to everyone who purchased that already. So if you're just watching this and you've already have it, then yay for you. Okay, so we're just going to close up that hat like we normally would. And we're going to do our nose and feet first. Now, after we have the body, we know how big to make our nose. So you see me sizing it there. And I'm going to make the feet pretty big. Now I used almost a whole packet of the bright green and just one little section of the dark green to get this color. I did have to mix up more for hands, so keep that in mind. This is a 17-inch tall gnome. So a lot of people asked me to show how to do the clay feet again. So all I did was shape the base, make the top flat and the bottom flat, and then use a toothpick to curve out my toes along with my fingers. That's it. And now for the toenails, I just make a little like rounded part and then a line, and then that's what gives me the toenails. Just pull off any clay that you don't need. And then after you do all of the toes, then I just use the same toothpick, add little lines on the toes. That's it. And then I repeat with the second foot. That's all. And then I bake them. Okay, so now for the pants. So we have pants now, woohoo, in the pattern, and it's a really, really easy way. So this flap here, we are not attaching it to the gnome yet because we're going to take them off, but we attach the back flap. And then you take them off and you pull one leg up and just attach that center seam on the inside of the legs. And you just repeat that for your other pant leg and you're done. I cut the bottom of mine off because I wanted to fray the edges like we did with the hat. And so I'm using the dollar store foam curlers. I'm adding a piece of wire, and then what I'm going to do is add hot glue and stick that right up into the body. And then I'm just using the scissors to push the bottom part in. And you can see I'm fraying the bottom of the pant legs, and then we're tucking them back in. I rolled down rolled down the waistband because I was lazy and didn't want to make a belt. And then I cut the beard. So I cut a really generous beard on this one and realized, oh, his pants are falling off. So go ahead and glue those on. And then glue your beard on. You know. Okay, so when I put the hat on, I wanted my nose to have a big pop out section. And so I frayed that section as well. And then this is a choice. You can either use that pop-out eyeball from the dollar store, or I used a piece of wire raffia that I had on hand and painted it red. And for the eyeball, I just used an off-white, about 1 inch maybe or so, little more than 1 inch round circle, and added a little bit of that same green and a darker greenish black color for the eyeball. And then I used scraps of red and just made veins. I know it's kind of gross, but it looks really cool in person. But I just put veins all over the eyeball, just in random places. And we're going to add a little paint to those later. and you can see I'm going to put a little squish at the back, and then I'm going to squish it in. Okay, so this will let us know exactly how to form it around the wire after it's baked. All right, and I'm also going to make the hands here. So I'm going to do the hands the exact same way as I did the toes, just making them smaller. And using that toothpick, I'm going to push it in so the fingers, stick out more and the fingers become longer. And then I'm going to use the same way to make the fingernails. So you can see like they're way longer only because I pushed it in with the toothpick. And then you repeat that for the second hand. Now, once everything is baked and cooled, we're just going to add, you don't have to do this, but I added black to the toenails and the fingernails. And then I also added a little dots around the eyeball. In the center, and around that, you can see it there. I added it around. It just gave it some depth, dimension. All right, so once all of that is dry, you can start assembling. And so we're just adding a little hot glue, and we're going to put it right to the bottom. You can see in those foam curlers, I did not take out the plastic piece. And then I wanted my hair to be all rough and tumbly, so I lifted a little bit up before I put my nose on, and I just affixed that with hot glue. Oops, I'm going to rip that off. And then now for the wire. Put this on first and let it really set before you put the other eyeball on. So we have to make sure we remember which side we put it on. Add the glue, tuck it up under, and then really don't touch that until it's set. I added some brains. You can see I had some plastic brains over there, but I didn't like the way it would look with everything. So I just ripped a hole, shredded it, added little pieces of red felt, and then just glued those in for brains. But if you want to put your brains hanging out of there, that's good. So in the same pattern, Swanky Jacket pattern, you're going to cut all the pieces, including the collar. You're going to fray the bottom and the sides of the jacket. And then you can see here, I'm actually tucking this all onto the collar. I put the collar up under the hat and then fix the glue right up to the hat, or fix the collar right up to the hat, sorry. There you go. And make sure it's really on there. And so I wanted to make sure I'm gonna glue it down here, but I also wanted to make sure it showed, so I cut off part of that jacket and then just frayed it. You can have yours long. So do not follow the arm pattern. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna use a couple inches of those foam curlers, making the end, one end fit it exactly, and one end a little longer so we can fray it for the so the hands are gonna get glued right up in there. Okay, and then we attach it just like it calls for in the pattern up under the collar. And now we're going to add on our glue, our eyeball, and glue our hands on. He's so cute, right? And then you style him with brains. So let me know in the comment section, what do you think of him? Do you like him? Will you make him? Thanks for hanging out with me. Please like and subscribe to Ruffles and Rain Boots for more crafty fun. Hi there, friends. It's Sarah from Ruffles and Rain Boots, and today we're making this spooky witch gnome. She's super cute, easy, and boop. If you'd like to make her, stick around. Now we are going to start out with some regular materials. We're going to make a nose and some hands, so grab some clay. We're also going to take a Sew Gnome pattern. This is one of mine, and it's on special if you sign up for my newsletter list. We're going to alter it, and we're going to share a witch gnome hat, some apron materials. So we're going to share a lot of stuff with you here. We're also going to talk about some watercolored merino wool, some very plush fleece, and some premium felt. But before we get started,
Hi, I'm here with a friendly gnome reminder to subscribe. How? Just click that red subscribe button below and then the bell for turning on all notifications. Now let's get back to Sarah and the crafts.
Okay, so we are going to start by making the nose and the hands, and I'm just using some polymer clay here. You can use air dry clay. It does crack a little bit more, but we're just going to shape it into a nice rounded off triangle. It's going to stick straight out, so based on whatever size gnome you'd like to make, you can make this after your gnome body is created. Now I used a little teeny tiny bit of dark green gnome, but you can use purple or whatever, and I gave her a nice ugly wart. Bam! Okay, so we're also going to make 2 small balls for the hands, and then we're going to bake that and let it cool completely. Next up, we're going to take that Sew Gnome pattern, wow, for the body, and I'll put that link below, but what we're going to do is we're actually going to make it a little bit wider and a little bit taller. I wanted her to be sort of tall and thin, kind of spooky. We're going to assemble it per the instructions. I speak the English most days. And once it's dry, we are going to flip it over and fill it. I'm using poly beads, and of course I have to spill some. We're also going to stuff the top all the way up to that tippy top there with polyfill. And then you're going to roll it in your hands, distribute it. And so now we're going to make the witch hat. So if you have black stiff felt, use that. I have this premium felt that I totally have to use, so I'm just using a bowl to cut a round circle. A round circle. That's ridiculous. But anyway, you can actually cut 2 of those circles. So just FYI, when you cut them, we're going to cut out a center. I'm using the size of a ribbon, you know, like a spool of ribbon. And so all I'm going to do here is cut along the line that I traced with my X-Acto knife, just so it'll be nice and even. And then I cut 2 of these. You don't have to, but I just like to finish hat because I wanted to pull the hat back. Okay. All right. So now we're going to create the other portion of the witch's hat, which is the cone. And it's super simple. You can decide how thick you want it, but here we are. We created a fold. We cut our pattern. And now we're just going to make it into a cone. This is a super duper easy no-sew gnome. She is, you know, standing. And so what I'm going to do is share that shoe video in a separate series. They're super easy to make and they're so much fun. So you'll see that video soon if it's not already out. It depends on which ones I have to get edited first. And so now that we've got our cone all the way made, we're going to pull it down on the round part. No, other way around. We're going to put the round part onto the cone and pull it down. There you go. And then see this bottom bit here? We're going to cut strips. No, what are they called? Flaps. I am not supposed to be editing videos today. Apparently I cannot speak. Okay, so we're going to cut these flaps all around. And you're just going to make them about 1/2 inch to 1 inch. There's really, I don't think I made them even. I mean, and all I'm going to do is flip them up. See? It's kind of hard to see black on black. But you flip them up and then you just put a little hot glue right under the flippity flaps. And you do that all the way around. And then you cover it with the other circle you made. Woohoo! See? Easy peasy lemon squeezy. And now you can't see any of the flaps. And now your witch's hat is done. Oh, but now this is a fun little, I love making braids and merino wool is just so soft that I love it even more. All I'm going to do is take a long set because I want very long braids. I'm going to take and rip off pieces of the merino wool and then I'm going to color them with watercolor. That's it. Let them dry and then biggity bam, you have this. So we're just going to divide it into 3 pieces, braid them however long you want. Again, I chose very long braids because I wanted this to be the focus. And you just braid them all down. You're going to tie it off at the top and the bottom. I'm using embroidery thread, which I don't even remember the color. And then I just brushed out the bottom and then I snipped. See that? Boop. And now it looks like the end of a broom. Or it does to me. Let's just go with that. And now I'm just test fitting here. And then of course I'm going to speed all this up. You're going to do it all over again. It takes considerably longer than this shows. Okay, so now you have these 2 braids and then you're just, let's put the hat extra on. So I have a Cricut machine. I have this free file in case you all want it. It's a skinny little design that says eek. Do you like that? Eek. I'm so good at the sound effects. So anyway, you just place it down and then we use the cutest little teeny tiny tool ever, the mini press from Cricut. And then you just, I do love this thing. I'm not going to lie. This is a happy place in my craft room. And then we have eek on the hat. If you don't have that, you can use stickers or you can cut it out of vinyl yourself. They're not that hard to cut out with scissors. And then all we're going to do is put our braids on and then position those however you want them. I wanted the kind of fluffier part in the front. So I just glued them at the top. And then if you want, you can glue them all the way down. I just measured the other one to where it looked the same. And then we're going to stick on the hat. Okay, so I'm going to put a little bit of glue down because I'm going to tip the hat backwards later, okay? So I'm going to put down the nose first and make sure that I have the front exactly where I want it. And then we're going to add a little bit of glue to the brim of the hat and put that right on the nose because I really like when the top of the nose is covered. This is personal preference. And then I'm going to flip it back and yank down the hat. You don't have to do that. I just wanted it tipped up. So you don't have to make this either. Again, we have a pattern for optional arms. You're going to leave the very end open for our ball, our little clay ball for the hand. And then you're just going to hot glue hem that cut it in half, and the two open ends are where we're going to insert our clay balls. Now this I also did, which was kind of fun. I don't have any black lace, and because of COVID, I can't go to the store. So I painted some lace. Ta-da! Now it's all witchified. Okay, so now it's time to make our lady. Hello, lady. We're just going to add a little bit of hot glue, and we're going to tuck that arm right up under the witch's hat. Biggity bam. Super easy. We're going to repeat on the other side. Hello. Now, you can choose to glue the hands on, but I'm making an outfit. So this is my little apron. I just cut a square, and then I hemmed that piece of lace so it was doubled over and gave it a nice little top hem here with hot glue. And then I just hot glued that right to Miss Lady. Hello, lady. And then we just set it all the way around, give her a little bit of a belt, like a tie, you know, and I just hot glued that down as well. Hello. And then I gave her some straps. No sewing required. I'm loving these projects. Now, these are the super duper cool kicks that our witch is wearing. I get really excited about gnome shoes. So anyway, I will put that pattern link down below as well, but wait for the video. It's super cool. We are going to add a generous portion of hot glue there, and we're going to set our lady on top. Now we're going to accessorize her with her little hands. It's always nice. And then I found a little tiny pot at the craft store, no, at the Dollar Tree, and I added a little felt in it and glued it to her. And what do you think? She's done. What do you think? Do you like her? I've made one of these short and squatty years ago. I shared it on my Facebook page. It went crazy. So this is her now. Let me know in the comments, will you make her? And be sure to check out that shoe tutorial below. I have a ton of them coming as well. Thank you so much for being here. Please like this video and subscribe to Ruffles and Rain Boots. Thanks for joining us. It's Sarah with Ruffles and Rain Boots, and we are making some adorable Halloween sock gnomes today. We're giving you the free cut files if you want to add the vinyl words, but everything and all the instructions are down below. We're going to start out with about a 1/4 cup of poly beads and an adult ankle sock, and we're just going to place the poly beads in the bottom of the sock and sort of tamp it down a little bit just by banging it on the table. And then we're going to add all of our polyfill up to however high we want our gnomes. So these are adult men's ankle socks, and they are perfect for tiered trays because you can make them really small or a little taller. All right, so we're just going to make sure that we get it all in there pretty stuffed, and then we're going to secure the top, and you can either use a piece of thread or a rubber band, whatever you have handy, and you're going to gather up all of the excess at the top and secure that. Next up, we're just going to sort of find out where it's laying down flat, and we will cover this part, but what we want to do is just flip it down, and then we want to cut off any excess that we don't need. And you can see here, I'm just going to snip off sort of the ribbed part of the ankle sock, and then we're just going to secure it down with hot glue. Little dabs here and there. Again, this is all going to be covered, but just try and make sure it's pretty flat. So okay, next up, what we're going to do is we're going to set the body aside. And if you've never worked with faux fur, I will tell you what we're going to do is we're going to spread out our faux fur. This is Mongolian fur. You can get it at fabric stores. It's a better quality than craft fur, but you're going to lay it flat without stretching it. So we want it just to lay flat, and then you're just going to measure your body by rolling it around. And this is the best way I can explain it. You're only going to be cutting the backing. So make sure you're just cutting that fabric about 1 inch down. And then what you want to do is you want to find the very bottom part about where the fur will fall. Now, this is fur, and you're not cutting it through, so the fur is going to extend beyond the fabric line. So you can see, and I'll show you a little later in the video where the fur actually stops. But what we're going to do, I don't do this, or normally I just cut between it, but I wanted to show you, you're going to cut sort of a triangle shape out down to sort of a rounded off point at the bottom. And again, as you're cutting, you can use a razor blade, an X-Acto knife, anything you want. Just if you're using scissors, don't cut with them like scissors, use them as a blade. And then you're just going to flip over the other side in order for you to get the matching angle. And again, you can draw it or not. I don't normally. But what we're going to do is we're going to pull the fabric away from each other, and you can see all these beautiful fur pieces are actually hanging down like fur. So now you're going to see Before you glue it, make sure that you like where it falls. So you can see the edge of the fur is there, and then it has a little bit of extended at the bottom. So I'm about an inch down from the top, and I'm just going to secure each side with hot glue. And you don't want to get any hot glue on the fur because it will like kind of gunk up, but it's pretty easy to hide your mistakes with this. This is a very forgiving project. And then you're just going to brush it down with your fingers. You can use sort of a cat hair brush, but I just use my fingers. So I'm using a child sock because, again, these are for a tiered tray and I wanted them pretty small. You can use an adult sock. It's a knee sock. And what we're going to do is we're just going to put it over our body and we're just going to adjust it and tug it and squeeze the body to adjust that polyfill inside. And then you're going to remove it and turn it inside out. So you can do this part with hot glue. I don't think it looks as good, but you can cut it into a point and then make a quote seam with hot glue. But what we're going to do is you can either round it off like I showed you there, or you can cut it into a point. I'm going to add a knot at the end, so I kind of stuck with the point. Okay, so all I'm doing here is just using a basic needle and thread and coming up to a point and going down to the other side. And I have no idea what stitch this is. It's just Sarah is making knots everywhere. And then cut it off, flip it inside, or you're going to cut the fabric like into a seam allowance there. You can see I'm just cutting the edges of the fabric, and then you're going to flip it inside out. And again, I wanted a little bit of the visual something at the bottom because I measured mine so the hat kind of flips around to the side. So I just tied a knot at the end. Okay, so now we're just gonna slip on the hat, but don't hot glue it yet because, again, this is a sock gnome and it depends on where you want the hat to be placed. And you don't have to add the boo or the eek cut files that I gave you in vinyl, but you do have to do this part where you kind of make sure it's exactly where you want it because we're going to identify where we want to put the nose. Now, you don't have to do this. A lot of people don't. I just happen to like the look of it. I split the faux fur into sort of a mustache kind of look, and then I attach, this is a clay nose that we made, but you can use wooden beads, you can use anything you want, guys and gals, but we're just going to attach it with a little hot glue, and you can see there, you can kind of see the mustache pieces, and then we're going to secure the front down first. So why we do this is so it makes sure we cover up that squinchy little part of the nose. And you can leave this as is, or you can go ahead and click that link and get the cut files for free. So I made you eek and boo in a really simple sort of Ray Dunn style. They're super cute. So let us know what you think below. Please like and subscribe to Ruffles and Rain Boots for more crafty fun. Hi there, it's Sarah from Ruffles and Rain Boots, and today we're making the Sanderson sisters boop, boop, boop from Hocus Pocus. If you'd like to make them, stick around. As always, please give this video a like so I know you're here with me, and we're going to have a little prep work. We're going to do clay and hair. So first things first, we're going to make one little bead nose, 6 hands, so repeat that for smaller hands, and then make 2 kind of wonky noses, one really big for Winifred and a middle-sized one. So 3 noses, 6 hands. Get those baking and then get out watercolor and any color or any kind of faux fur that you have. We're just going to paint a reddish brownish color, which will lighten up, and a blonde and a black. So after you brush them out, you'll notice they get a little bit lighter, but what we're going to do is mold the hair pieces. So we're going to have all 3 of these sisters here. The rest of the supplies are going to be in that link down below. There's a lot of stuff I didn't use in this picture, but first,
Here with a friendly gnome reminder to subscribe. How? Just click that red subscribe button below and then the bell for turning on all notifications. Now let's get back to Sarah and the crafts.
okay, so we are going to repeat the same process for all the sisters, so I'm only going to show you one. We're taking these very, very long thigh-high socks, and we're just going to make sock gnomes. We're going to cut them off at about an ankle length because we do need a pretty strong base. We're going to fill it with weight, and we're going to add polyfill to the top before we tie it down. Now, as for the height, you can do a small one at 6 inches, you can do a taller one, it just needs to be kind of heavy. We are going to tie that off and secure it with a little hot glue. Now, we have a whole rest of the piece of sock here, so what we're going to do is about 6 inches from that top ribbed portion, we're going to cut it off to however tall you would like it. Mine are more than 2 feet. And then we're going to cut it at an angle so it comes to a point, and that way we can just hot glue hem it all the way down. Okay, so this is really easy. You just turn it inside out, take that one side, and just gently add a bead of glue. You are going to wait until this dries. Don't try and turn it before it does dry, because you will poke your finger right through it. But once it is dry, you're just going to use a chopstick or an eraser end of a pencil to get that tip out. And then we're going to stuff it full of polyfill at the top, rolling it in between our hands to really distribute it. Then we're going to take a pretty long piece of floral wire, at least 12 to 18 inches. We're going to curl down the top and the bottom in just a second, and we're going to press that up, fill the rest of it with polyfill, again rolling it in our hands, and you can start bending and shaping these any way you'd like. So when we put it on the sock gnome body, we make sure to put that wire, again you've turned down the bottom, all the way into that body. We don't want it coming out. And we're gonna just look at the nose here so we can get sizing, but do not glue it on yet. Now for Winifred, who is the most notable sister, what we're gonna do is we're gonna use a rectangle piece of fabric, and we're gonna cut a trapezoid out of the middle with 2 rounded edges, okay? So you can see here, we've got our little trapezoid piece cut out. We'll do one side here and just yank it off, do another side here, and then it leaves you with this sunglasses shape. And what we're going to do is just stuff the circle portion with polyfill and give it a hem all the way around, so you're creating a pom-pom of sorts. Now I will advise you, don't be afraid of a needle and thread. If I had to do this over again, I would choose a needle and thread plus a running stitch just to make this go a whole lot faster, because you do have to wait for the hot glue to dry. So just tip number 1. See, that's the pom-pom. It stays all on its own. Do that for the other side again, and pull out some braids or some bangs for her face. So now what we're going to do is make a really simple apron. Again, you can doll these up with the lace. You can put black aprons on them, collars, frilly bits, whatever. I'm just doing pleats. And so all I'm doing is I'm pleating the front, you can see here, and then I'm going to lay over the back edge and then glue that down as well. You can see it's just a cute little pleat. I'm going to repeat it on the other side, except I'm going to put it in towards the center instead of going the same way as the other side. Just pull it in towards the center. It's really easy. And then you lay it down. See? Boop. Just lay it down. And again, you could do this in like 3 seconds with a needle and thread as well, but you guys asked me for hot glue. Here you go. So you're just going to make sure to put it all the way around, give it a glue down, and then don't glue the front down. But if you don't have an even piece like me, just cut that off the bottom. I cut a small little rectangle and tucked it in the front of her dress so that I could make the apron pieces, and 2 tiny little rectangles for her straps. That's it. That's all I did. And I just glued it down. Everything gets glued down. Yay. Our little gnomes are coming together. The last piece for her dress is just to tie on a sash, or put on a sash. I mean, don't tie it on. Okay, now we're going to glue down her nose. Now I made a honking nose, so put a generous bit of hot glue there. And then also use the ribbing of the sock and glue it down onto the actual clay nose. Easy, she's cute, right? Okay, so we're not going to need to do the front of the hat anymore, so go ahead and tack those down about 1 inch away from the nose. And now, hot glue on Winifred's hair. See how solid it is? It becomes really, really solid when you get it all together, so just add a generous portion of glue, stick it down, and you can position her little bangs. If you do want arms, cut 2 pieces of that excess sock fabric. You're going to hot glue hem the inside so nothing frays, and then you're just going to fold it over on itself. Boop! And you can put wire in these if you want them to be bendable. And you're going to repeat that for the second side. And then you're just going to squish down one end, add a little hot glue, and then stick in one of the clay beads. You can use wooden beads or pom-poms, whatever you have, and then snip off anything that's ugly, like I did there. Repeat for the second arm, and then for your sizing, just make sure you can hide the arm up under the brim of the hat. Add a little hot glue, and you're done with that. I mean, you got to do the other side. So then you're done with that. And now all of the sisters' bodies are going to be made the same way. Hello, Winifred. So we're going to start on the second sister, and I just want to tell you, I'm only going to show you the parts that are different. So Miss Sister Mary has a rectangle of black fur. I am going to fold it into a trapezoid shape, okay? So I'm going to fold down the bottom a little further away than I'm folding down the top. And I'm going to do that on both sides. So the back doesn't matter. It's going to be pressed straight up against our sock gnome, but we do want the sides to be generously portioned with fur. So then I'm going to squish the top together. I just cut a very thin piece of faux fur and tied that around the top so that it looks like hair. But you could put a cute little tie in a bow or a rubber band or something. I secured it with hot glue. And then I hot glued the whole mamma jamba to the front of Sister. And then here you are. Bam! There's Sister Mary. Okay, we're going to repeat it again for the final Sanderson sister. So everything else is the same. And here's my sister Sarah, my namesake. We're going to take a thin piece of faux fur, about the length of it doubled over her body, over her nose. And then very similar to how we make a handlebar mustache for a gnome, we're going to point the edges and we're going to fold the faux fur backing in on itself so that everything looks like hair. And you're going to do that for both sides. So get those down. And then you're also going to squish together that middle piece. And then look, you just fit it on Miss Sarah. Hello, Sarah. And you're done. You can dress them up. You can change them. You can, twist their little hats. These things are like 2 feet tall. What do you think? Let me know in the comments section, boop, if you're going to give them a make. Hey, thank you so much for being here. As always, please like and subscribe to Ruffles and Rain Boots. Hi there friends, it's Sarah with Ruffles and Rain Boots, and today we are making a Halloween monster gnome banner. You're so cute! And you can boop their little boops, 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 noses. If you'd like to make these with me, stick around. As always, thank you for being here. Please like this video so I know you're here crafting with me. And we are going to start out with a very long list of scraps. Okay, so I'm going to put the link down below so you can see everything. It's too much to go through, but I will say I used a little bit of different variations of fur and felt colors. But first,
Here with a friendly gnome reminder to subscribe. How? Just click that red subscribe button below and then the bell for turning on all notifications. Now let's get back to Sarah and the crafts.
okay, if you're new here, I have a lot of fun making those. Okay, so first up is our witch, and we're going to use black and purple felt, excess sock or fabric material, an accent of a little green witch nose, some merino wool that I've dyed purple, and a little gold accent for our hat. So we're just going to start out with our circle in our pattern, and we have all these patterns for you, or you can just wing it. And we're basically going to create a little cone like we do for a normal witch hat. Or sorry, just gnome hat. And if you mess up like I do, just cut that little back flap off. But instead of making a true hat, we're just going to bend out the bottom and we're going to attach it straight to this circle, okay? Next up, we're just going to add a cute little accent. I chose to add a purple felt band all the way around. And then I just cut out a little rectangle with a rectangle cut out for a buckle. I mean, it's really easy, isn't it cute? I just want to make a banner of witch hats. Okay, so for the body, it's kind of like a sock gnome. I'm just using a little piece of fabric extra from a sock gnome. I secured one end, added a little polyfill, cut off a few inches, and this part is dependent upon however tall you want it. Mine is just a few inches big, but then I hot glue hemmed the top, sealed it all up, and just glued it to the bottom of the witch hat. Next up, after you color your merino wool with watercolor and let it dry, you can make your braids, tie them off with a little bit of embroidery thread, repeat for the second one, and then hot glue them right at the underside of that hat on both sides. Isn't she coming together? Add that little green clay nose we made, or a wood bead, whatever you'd like, and your witch is done. We're going to set her aside really quickly, and we're going to move on to Frankenstein. We're starting out with a green hat, and again, this is explained in the pattern in great detail, but basically I just want to show you, you're going to make 2 hats, cut off the green one, and then on the bottom of the black one, you're just going to create Frank's hair, right? So I just cut these little ridges up and down. They're really not even, but then you're going to build the black hat right on top of this green part for his face. See? You're going to add a little bit of glue to attach that black to the green, and then I tipped down the hats, added a clip, and let that dry. Next up, I just created a little bit of green fur with watercolor and white fur, and then I just glued the fabric backing to the back of the hat, added a little green clay nose, There you go. And then I also scrunched the black part down onto the green, so just kind of scrunch them up together. 100% optional, you do you. If you want to make a teeny tiny little scarf for Frank, you just roll a piece of black felt in your hands, add it to kind of wrap around the side of his little face, and then with other little scraps, you just cut vertical, or you just cut little pieces, and then you place them vertically. So you just perpendicular to the scar, and then you're done. Well, you're not actually, because if you want the posts on the Frank, all I did was take foam, like craft foam in gray. I rolled up a little bit, added hot glue, and snipped off the end. And then you can use a clip to secure that while you make the next one. But you're just going to repeat that for a second bolt. And then you're going to cut little teeny tiny circles out of the scraps of your felt or foam, and then just glue them to the top of one bolt, and you're done. So if you repeat that for the other one, now look what you get. It's super cute. Just attach them in the back, leave them kind of the length that I have them in the pattern, but attach them to the back, and look, it's a Frankenstein. I cracked myself up. Okay, so now we're gonna do Dracula. So I do have a Dracula gnome coming. Oh, hopefully I can get it, filmed before Thanksgiving. But what I did is I just took two teeny tiny triangles of white foam and added red paint to the ends. Oh, and now a little break from your viewing no, I'm just kidding. Let's stop that. All right, so we're just going to brush out some Mongolian fur. If you're new here, it is my favorite fur for gnomies. And we're going to make a black hat. Easy peasy lemon squeezy, just like we did for everybody else. I bent it at the top and again secured it with a clip so you can see. Boop. And now we're just going to cut that Mongolian fur down into a sort of ish triangle. Use what you have. This is a scrap project. And we're just going to glue it to the back of our hat. A little brushing out again. I'm just kidding. I'm not going to do it to you. We're going to add a little bit of glue for our nose. We're going to squish our nose hat down. Now, this is fun. So I want you to make sure that you split your fur to the fabric backing, add a little bit of hot glue, and then attach it. They will stay way better and won't move around if you attach it to the fabric backing. Isn't it cute? All right, so this is 100% optional, but if you happen to have a dollar store and happen to have a bat toy from the dollar store, snip off the wings. They're super cute. We're going to hot glue them to the back of our vampire hat. And look. Ooh, he's so spooky. I'm just kidding. He's adorable. All right, now we're going to make a fun one. We're going to wrap up a mummy. So we're starting out with a white hat base, and we're going to make little snips in a t-shirt or just canvas fabric that you have and make them really uneven and gnarly and ragged. And then we're just going to start with one end, attach it to the hat and wrap it. Now you are going to leave a little bit of space in between these so we can get another piece and wrap it around, but you're going to glue it down in various places to secure it. And you just do the whole hat. It's super cute. I opted to pin down the top of the hat, but be sure to leave that tail if you want the same look of the nose that I have. I just cut crinkle fur in a sort of ish triangle and attached it to the back of the hat and on the inside. Added my little clay bead nose. You can use a wooden bead, you can use a pom-pom, anything you'd like, and then pulled that bottom tail that we left under the nose, attached it to the back, and look. Woohoo! Hello, mummy. All right, for our last gnome, we're going to start out with a white base because we're going to scare up a cute little ghost. We are going to add a little bit of decoration to our hat here. We're just going to create 2 large circles and 1 small circle out of black felt. I'm going to tip down the top of the hat, secure it with a clip, and then glue on the face. Bam! We're using a little bit of white Mongolian fur here, gluing it to the back of the hat, adding a little nose, and guess what? You are legit done with the ghost. Now we're going to spill these little foam balls everywhere, cut about a 5.5 foot piece of embroidery thread, string some of the balls on, and then go through the back top of the hat for each of your, like this, there you go, for each of your little monsters. And we're just going to repeat that. You can use small ones, large ones, any color pattern you want, or willy-nilly. And then just repeat that for everybody. At the very end, make hanging loops, and you are done. Isn't it so cute? And it's a great Scrap Buster. What do you think? Let me know in the comments below. Thank you so much for being here. And as always, please like this video and subscribe to Ruffles and Rain Boots.